The alien council roared with cruel mocking laughter at pathetic, primitive humanity, not knowing we would soon stun them into awed silence when they witnessed our true terrifying might unleashed. In 2257, the Galactic Council of tentacled Zorgons, reptilian Saurians and blue Andorians sneered at Earth's lack of unity and technology. "Leave the stupid apes to destroy themselves," a Zorgon chuckled. But wary Councillor Zarnak warned underestimating humans could prove fatal. The Council dispatched an Andorian-led delegation to assess the human threat. On Earth, UESF Captain James Hawkins prepared to greet the aliens, knowing humanity's fate depended on him making the right impression. One wrong move could provoke the advanced aliens to effortlessly annihilate Earth. The survival of the human species hung in the balance. The sleek alien delegation ship descended through the clouds, its chrome hull glinting in the Terran sun. Captain James Hawkins stood at attention in his pressed UESF uniform, his team arrayed behind him. He took a deep breath. This first contact would change the course of human history. The ship's ramp lowered with a hiss. 3 figures emerged, a tentacled Zorgon, a blue-skinned Andorian, and a hulking reptilian Saurian. The Andorian stepped forward. "Greetings, Captain Hawkins. I am Ambassador Xyloth. The Galactic Council extends an appendage of friendship to Earth." Hawkins returned the gesture, grasping Xyloth's offered hand. The Andorian's grip was cold and clammy. "Welcome to our humble planet, Ambassador. We are honored by your presence." As the pleasantries continued, Xyloth's compound eyes darted back and forth, scanning the high-tech UESF facility. "Quite advanced for such a primitive species," he mused. "All the more reason to keep them under the Council's thumb." Aloud he said, "The Council desires only peaceful relations between our peoples. We have much to learn from each other." Hawkins nodded. "Of course, please allow me to give you a tour of our facilities, right this way." As they walked, Xyloth noted the humans' impressive achievements: quantum computers, android servants, early warp drive prototypes. Perhaps they had underestimated these Terrans. All the more reason to exploit their world's resources before they became a threat. But there was a darker side to humanity as well. They passed a memorial to the devastation of the 21st century wars. Soldiers in hulking power armor and military drones were visible on the base. Clearly this species had a deeply militaristic nature. How long before they turned that toward the stars? "Tell me, Captain," Xyloth probed, "Earth must have many wonders. What other facilities do you have that could foster trust between our kinds?" Hawkins hesitated. There was a classified UESF research center hidden in the Gobi Desert, where top-secret projects were developed. The alien didn't need to know that. "We have many bases, Ambassador, but they're mostly focused on scientific research and exploration." "Come now, Captain," Xyloth said with a reptilian smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Surely Earth has nothing to hide from its new friends. Transparency is key for building trust." Hawkins frowned inwardly. He didn't like the aliens' probing questions. Something felt off. "Of course, Ambassador. We'll tell you anything you need to know." Hawkins tapped a few commands into his wrist computer under the guise of checking the time. A coded alert was sent to UESF High Command. "Aliens probing for classified info. Suspect ulterior motives, advise." He had to stall for time until he received orders on how to proceed. He forced a smile. "Would you like to see our labs? We're working on some exciting new polymer designs." As Xyloth nodded in feigned interest, wheels turned in Hawkins' head. He needed a way to find out what these aliens were really after. Luring them to the Gobi facility might expose their true intentions, but it could also hand them sensitive intel. It was a dangerous game. But if there was one thing Hawkins knew, it was that when the fate of humanity was at stake, sometimes you had to risk it all. He would find out the truth about these alien friends, one way or another. The sky rumbled as a sleek silver shuttle descended onto the secret Gobi facility's landing pad. Captain Hawkins watched the alien delegation disembark with a grim expression. This was it. the moment of truth. "Ambassador Xyloth, welcome to our Advanced Research Center," Hawkins said, keeping his tone even. "I think you'll find our latest breakthroughs quite illuminating." Xyloth's compound eyes glittered. "Marvelous, Captain. Lead the way." As they entered the facility, Xyloth noticed the layers of armed guards and biometric security checkpoints. For a supposedly peaceful species, the humans were certainly well defended. Hawkins led them into a cavernous hangar, housing towering machinery. In the center was a pulsing orb of swirling blue energy, crackling with barely contained power. Xyloth's eyes widened. "What is that, Captain?" Hawkins smiled tightly. "That, Ambassador, is the harmonic resonance cannon, an energy weapon capable of reducing an entire planet to atoms." Xyloth stepped back. The humans had this kind of destructive capability. The Council had to be warned. This primitive species was far more dangerous than they realized. "Remarkable," Xyloth said, feigning calm. "I had no idea humanity possessed such a formidable technology. The Council will be quite interested to learn of this." His mind raced. He needed to contact the Council immediately and urge a preemptive strike, destroy the humans before they could turn this weapon on the galaxy. But Hawkins was watching him like a hawk. He needed a distraction, something to buy him time to send a warning. "Captain, I must say I'm quite parched after our long journey," Xyloth said with a disarming smile. "Could we trouble you for some refreshments? I'm sure my associates would appreciate a moment to rest as well." Hawkins hesitated. The alien was up to something, he could feel it. But he had to play along until his trap was ready. "Of course, Ambassador. We'll have something brought in right away. In the meantime, allow my lieutenant to show your associates to our guest lounge." Hawkins nodded to his second-in-command, a tall woman with steel-grey eyes. She nodded back imperceptibly. The plan was in motion. As the aliens were led away, Hawkins tapped his earpiece. "Eagle 1, status report." "In position, sir," came the reply. "Strike team is ready to move on your order." "Good, stand by." Hawkins cut the link and turned back to Xyloth with a smile. "Now, Ambassador, what else would you like to see?" Xyloth's eyes darted to the energy cannon. "I would be most interested to hear about this weapon's development. How did your scientists overcome the containment field instabilities?" As Hawkins launched into a prepared speech about the cannon's specs, Xyloth slowly reached for a device on his belt, shielding it with his body. His clawed finger tapped out an encoded burst transmission to the Council fleet. "Human threat level extreme. Deploy warships immediately. Preemptive strike authorized." Just as he hit send, alarms blared throughout the facility. The Zorgon whirled around. Hawkins had a pulse rifle trained on him, as did a dozen UESF soldiers who seemed to melt out of the shadows. "I'm afraid your little tour is over, Ambassador," Hawkins said coldly. "Did you really think we'd let you just walk out of here after seeing the HRC?" Xyloth hissed. "This is an act of war. The Council will burn your world for this." "I think you'll find that humanity doesn't respond well to threats." Hawkins nodded to his men. "Take them." There was a blur of motion as the soldiers converged on the delegation. The Saurian roared and charged, throwing off 2 men before being brought down by a stun blast. The Andorian reached for a weapon, but was quickly disarmed and restrained. Xyloth found himself slammed against the wall, the barrel of Hawkins' rifle jammed under his chin. "Your plan has failed, Captain," the Zorgon spat. "The Council fleet is already on its way. You've doomed your entire species." Hawkins smirked. "I wouldn't be so sure about that." He looked to his lieutenant. "Jameson, status?" She consulted a holo display. "Perimeter secure, sir," and her eyes widened. "Ships incoming. Looks like our guests called in some backup after all." Hawkins kept his rifle trained on Xyloth as he barked orders. "Battle stations, I want those alien ships disabled yesterday, and get the orbital defense grid online." As soldiers scrambled to obey, Hawkins glared down at the alien. "You wanted to see the might of humanity, Ambassador. Now you will. Did you really think we survived this long by being weak?" Xyloth simply glared back, furious but for once speechless. Hawkins hauled the alien to his feet. "Get this scum to a cell. I've got a planet to defend." As he marched toward the command center, Hawkins allowed himself a grim smile. The galaxy was about to learn that you don't mess with Earth. Not now, not ever. In the cold darkness of space, 1,000 ships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect synchronization. They arranged into a sphere formation as they approached Earth's orbit. At their center was the Galactic Council flagship Enforcer, a monstrous dreadnought bristling with planet-cracking antimatter cannons. In the Enforcer's command bridge, Warlord Kroll stood before a holographic projection of Earth. The Zorgon's tentacles writhed in anticipation, his eyes glinting cruel crimson. Engineer Razog approached and bowed his head. "Warlord, we received a transmission from Ambassador Xyloth before he went silent. The humans have developed—" "I know," Kroll snapped. "Xyloth already warned us. That's why we're here, you imbecile." He turned back to the holo display and clasped his claws behind his back. "This primitive dirtball has some teeth after all. No matter, they're still no match for us." Razog frowned. "But Warlord, the energy readings from their weapons, if Xyloth's readings are true—" Kroll rounded on him, snarling. "Are you questioning my judgment? I've conquered 1,000 worlds. I'll grind these Terrans to cosmic dust." He faced the view screen and raised a clenched fist. "Open a channel to the planet. Audio only." "Channel open, Warlord." Kroll spoke, his voice thundering across Earth's communication networks. "People of Earth, this is Warlord Kroll of the Galactic Council. Your species has been deemed a threat to galactic peace. Surrender now or be destroyed. You have 1 hour to comply." He motioned to cut the transmission and turned to his tactical officer. "Charge all weapons and raise shields. If they do not capitulate, we will wipe their cities from the face of their world." On the surface, chaos erupted as the alien message repeated across every frequency. But in the UESF command bunker, a steely calm prevailed. Hawkins stood before a wall of monitors depicting the Council fleet. His jaw clenched as he studied the readouts. This was it, the moment of truth. Admiral Durand, a grizzled man with steel-grey hair, clasped Hawkins's shoulder. "It's time, son. Humanity's very survival hangs in the balance. We place the sword of Earth in your hands." Hawkins met his mentor's gaze and nodded resolutely. "Those council bastards won't know what hit them." He turned to the command staff. "Send word to the fleet. Deploy all Razorback squadrons, activate the orbital defense platforms, and warm up the HRC." His face hardened. "If it's a fight they want, we'll give them one." In orbit, a second fleet appeared as dozens of human warships decloaked, perfectly positioned in a sphere around the Council Armada. They were lean, predatory craft, armed with the latest in human ingenuity. On the Enforcer's bridge, alarm klaxons blared. "Warlord," Razog cried, "human ships have us surrounded." Kroll gaped at the tactical display in disbelief. "What? Where did they come from?" "They must have been cloaked, waiting for us." Kroll pounded a console, his face purpling with rage. "Impossible. Shoot them down. All weapons. Fire at will." The Council ships opened up with a barrage of missiles and energy beams, but the human vessels nimbly evaded, dancing between the blasts with impossible agility. Their hulls shimmered as the galactic weapons splashed harmlessly off their advanced shielding. The human ships returned fire, lancing out with searing beams of cobalt light. A Council destroyer's shields flared and died as it took a direct hit, the beam slicing through its hull like a knife through butter. The ship exploded into an expanding blossom of fire. Kroll watched in stunned horror as his ships fell one by one, outmatched by the human vessel's speed and firepower. "This can't be happening," he muttered. "We can't lose to these primitives." On the UESF flagship Titan, Hawkins watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. They had caught the Council fleet with their pants down, but it wasn't over yet. He had to cut the head off the snake. "Helm, plot a micro-jump to these coordinates," he ordered, marking a spot near the Enforcer. "We're going to introduce ourselves to the Warlord personally." The Titan vanished in a flare of light, reappearing off the Council flagship's bow. Before they could react, a salvo of quantum torpedoes ripped into the dreadnought's shields, sending arcs of energy crawling across the barrier. Hawkins hailed the flagship. "Attention, Galactic Council vessel. This is Captain James Hawkins of the UESF. You have committed an act of war against Earth. Stand down immediately or be destroyed." Kroll's face appeared on the view screen, purpled with apoplectic rage. "You dare threaten me? I am Warlord Kroll. I have destroyed civilizations, exterminated entire species. What makes you think you can stand against the might of the Council?" Hawkins regarded him coldly. "You wanted to see the might of humanity, Warlord? Well, now you have. Did you really think you could just roll over us? We've been preparing for this day for decades, ever since we cracked your communications and learned of your plans for us. We knew you would come eventually, and now the galaxy will learn that nobody messes with Earth. Surrender now, and you have my word you will be treated fairly." Kroll sputtered, apoplectic. "Never, I would rather die than surrender to you hairless apes." Hawkins sighed. "I thought you might say that. In that case, you've seen what one of our ships can do. Now witness the true might of humanity." On Earth's night side, a small patch split open, and a truly gigantic cannon muzzle rose from the ground, craning up to aim directly at the Council fleet. Energy surged through immense capacitor rings as the HRC charged up. The alien ship started to turn to face this new threat, but it was too late. Far too late. A blinding lance of pure white destruction erupted from the cannon, spearing out to touch the Enforcer amidships. In an instant later, Kroll only had time to scream before the flagship vanished in a titanic explosion visible across half the solar system. The surviving Council ships, shocked and dumbfounded, could do little more than watch as human vessels shredded their formations and picked them off, one by one. In a matter of minutes, Kroll's once proud armada was reduced to clouds of cooling plasma and tumbling wreckage. On the Titan's bridge, Hawkins gripped the rail before him until his knuckles whitened. It was over. Earth was safe. But this was only the beginning, he knew. The Galactic Council would not just sit back and accept this humiliation. There would be a reckoning. Humanity had revealed their true strength today. They had drawn a line in the sand against the galaxy's self-appointed overlords. What happened next would determine the very future of their species. But that was a fight for another day. For now, Hawkins allowed himself a moment of grim satisfaction. Earth had spoken, and the galaxy had listened. In the aftermath of the fierce space battle, the Galactic Council found itself in a difficult position. The once mighty armada lay in ruins, the flagship Enforcer nothing more than a cloud of cooling plasma. The humans had proven themselves a force to be reckoned with, their advanced weapons and tactics catching the Council completely off guard. Councillor Zylara, the highest-ranking member to survive the battle, sat in the Titan's briefing room, her normally bright blue skin ashen with exhaustion and defeat. Captain Hawkins sat across from her, his expression stern but not unkind. "It seems we have underestimated your species, Captain," Zylara began, her voice heavy. "The Council believed you to be primitive, no match for our might. We were wrong." Hawkins leaned forward, his elbows on the table. "Councillor, humanity has been aware of the galactic community for decades. We intercepted your communications, learned of your plans for our world. Did you really think we would just sit back and let ourselves be exploited?" Zylara shook her head. "No, I suppose not. Your people have a strength we did not anticipate, a resolve that rivals any species we have encountered. And now you see the result of that resolve," Hawkins said, gesturing to the view screen showing the remnants of the Council fleet. "But this doesn't have to be the end. We can find a way forward, together." Zylara met his gaze. "What are you proposing, Captain?" "A truce," Hawkins said simply. "An end to hostilities between our peoples. And more than that, a seat for humanity on the Galactic Council, as equals." The Councillor's eyes widened. "You ask for much, Captain. The Council has never granted such a position to a species so new to the galactic stage." Hawkins smiled wryly. I think we've proven ourselves capable. Wouldn't you agree? Zilara was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, she nodded. Yes, I suppose you have. Very well, Captain. I will bring your proposal to what remains of the Council. But know this. Humanity may have a seat at the table, but you will be watched closely. Any sign of aggression or attempts at domination will be met with the full force of the Council. Hawkins' face hardened. Councillor, let me make one thing perfectly clear. Humanity will not tolerate any attempts at exploitation or aggression from the Council or its member species. We will defend ourselves and our allies with all the might at our disposal. But we also stand ready to work with you, to build a better future for all our peoples. Zilara stood, offering her hand. Then let us begin that work, Captain, for the sake of the galaxy. Hawkins took her hand, shaking it firmly. For the sake of the galaxy. As the Councillor's ship departed, carrying her back to the remnants of the Council, Hawkins stood on the Titan's observation deck, gazing out at the stars. The weight of what had transpired, of the sacrifices made and the challenges ahead, settled heavily on his shoulders. Earth was safe for now. Humanity had proven itself a power to be reckoned with. But this was only the beginning. As they took their place among the stars, they would face new threats, new challenges. There would be those who sought to test their resolve, to take what they had fought so hard to achieve. But Hawkins knew that the true strength of humanity lay not in their ships or their weapons, formidable though they may be. No, it lay in their unwavering spirit, their determination to forge their own path in the galaxy. They would not be cowed or controlled by any outside force. As he watched the stars slide by, Hawkins felt a sense of pride swell within him. Pride in his people, in what they had accomplished. The road ahead would be difficult, but he knew they would face it as they always had, together, united in their resolve. For the first time in its history, humanity had a voice in the wider galaxy, and they would use that voice to build a future brighter than any they had dared to imagine. The Galactic Council, still reeling from their devastating defeat at the hands of the humans, gathered on the neutral world of Antares Prime to negotiate, a truce with the upstart species. The Grand Chamber was filled with delegates from 100 worlds, murmuring anxiously amongst themselves as they awaited the arrival of the human representative. A hush fell over the room as the doors swung open and Captain James Hawkins strode in, flanked by a pair of UESF Marines. The hero of Earth, the man who had single-handedly turned the tide of the war, cut an imposing figure in his crisp black uniform, his eyes scanning the gathered councillors with a piercing intensity. High Councillor Zilara rose to greet him, her voice carefully neutral. Captain Hawkins, we are honored by your presence. Hawkins inclined his head. High Councillor, I come on behalf of the United Earth Government to discuss the terms of our coexistence. Zilara gestured to an empty seat at the council table. Please be seated. We have much to discuss. As Hawkins took his place, the other councillors eyed him warily. This was the man who had bested their greatest warriors, who had shattered their fleets and sent them fleeing back to their own worlds. And now he sat among them as an equal. The negotiations began, with Hawkins laying out humanity's demands. A seat on the council, yes, but also trade agreements, the sharing of technology, and a mutual defense pact against external threats. The councillors balked at some of the terms, but Hawkins was unyielding. You have seen the might of humanity, he said, his voice ringing through the chamber. We have earned our place at this table. We will not be relegated to the sidelines, to be exploited and controlled as you see fit. Zilara raised a placating hand. Captain, please understand. The Council has maintained peace and stability in the galaxy for millennia. We cannot simply overturn the established order overnight. Hawkins leaned forward, his gaze intense. But that's just it, isn't it? Your established order was built on the subjugation of lesser species, on the exploitation of those you deemed beneath you. Humanity rejects that order. We demand to be treated as equals, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails. The debate raged on, with tempers flaring and voices rising. But through it all, Hawkins remained calm and resolute, a pillar of strength in the face of adversity. And slowly, grudgingly, the Council began to see the wisdom of his words. They had underestimated humanity once before, to their great cost. They could not afford to do so again. And so, with great reluctance, they agreed to humanity's terms. A new age had dawned, one in which the balance of power in the galaxy had fundamentally shifted. As the agreement was signed and sealed, Hawkins felt a great weight lift from his shoulders. They had done it. Humanity had secured its place among the stars, not through conquest or subjugation, but through strength and determination. But even as he shook hands with Zylara and the other counselors, Hawkins knew that their work was far from over. There would be challenges ahead, threats both from within and without. The galaxy was a dangerous place, and humanity would have to be vigilant if they were to survive and thrive. But he had faith in his people, in their resilience and their indomitable spirit. They had come so far from the divided and war-torn world of the 21st century to the united and powerful civilization they were today. They would face the future together, as one. As he stepped out of the council chamber and into the bright sunlight of Antares Prime, Hawkins took a deep breath of the alien air. The galaxy had changed, and humanity had changed with it. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. The days of the old order were over. A new era had begun, and humanity would be at the forefront, leading the way into the unknown. Hawkins smiled to himself as he boarded his shuttle, the UESF emblem gleaming proudly on its hull. The adventure was just beginning. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.